Let's talk about the antagonist in this narrative in which we live. Primarily, the World Economic Forum, which is the Mordor to our Shire. And I'm not joking. And it's literally led by a man called Sauron, or at least he just dresses like Sauron. His name's Klaus Schwab, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But this really is the final boss of the globalist project, and one of the prime movers behind it. So I thought it might be worth talking about their vast reach, their vast finances, and who it is they've got in charge, and what it is they think. I'm sure you're looking forward to hearing how woke they are, because they are. Right, so they've got it on the website, and so this is just, none of this is hidden information. This is all information you can find yourself. They say, the World Economic Forum was founded in 1971 as a not-for-profit foundation and is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. It is independent, impartial, and not tied to any special interests.
Oh, really?
No. They're right, though. They're right. They're the thing above the special interests that directs the special interests. And so it's like, wow, that's actually true, but all the more diabolical for it. Right? So the forum strives in all its efforts to demonstrate entrepreneurship, blah, 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 right? Our activities are shaped by a unique institutional culture. Yeah. Like the unique institutional culture of Mordor. Like, it's just, like Sauron could have written this. This is progressive Sauron.
I don't understand how they claim to be impartial as well, because they're a political organisation, really, aren't they?
They're impartial to any particular country or interest because they sit above it all. Because they view themselves as the directors of the world, the sort of world controllers from Brave New World. Right?
Well, the clue is in the name, isn't it? World Economic Forum.
It absolutely is. And so they say we're shaped by a unique institutional culture that's founded on stakeholder theory, which asserts that an organization is accountable to all parts of society, which is ironic given how not one person in the World Economic Forum is accountable in any way, shape, or form, it seems. Right? We can't hold any of them accountable. And so let's talk about their partners. Where do they get their money? Is this the New Champions? This New Champions program. And so these are companies with dynamic, high-growth companies that are championing new business models, emerging technologies, and sustainable growth strategies in the fourth industrial revolution, which is Schwab's term for this process of transformation. As Sauron grows his empire, this is called the fourth industrial revolution. And so if you scroll down the list, you'll see the kind of companies we're talking about. Now, these are companies, and you just keep going down. You've never held them. Access Holding, Axtria, Auric Capital Group, BTS Group, various holding companies, Far East Holding Group. You can see these are international holding companies. Who are they? Who are they beholden to?
I've heard of one or two, and that's about it, really.
A company called Perfect World, which is disturbing. But as you can see, they're companies you've never heard of. But I went and looked at just, their profiles on the World Economic Forum. See, they're companies that are worth billions that you've never heard of. And they've got tens of thousands of employees. So they've conscripted a vast amount of manpower and money into this project all around the world. And this has given them a bunch of milestones. They're also politically engaged, of course. And so you can see the sort of foundation that they're resting on now, which is international shell companies, basically, and billions that are being shifted around, probably quite unaccountably, to a forum of people who are unaccountable, who claim to be accountable, and then they start getting involved in politics. So in 1973, with the collapse of the Bretton Woods agreement, the exchange rate mechanism in the Arab-Israeli war, they started, political leaders were for the first time invited to Davos in Switzerland in 1974. And Davos, doesn't that sound like the headquarters of the villain?
Yeah, it sounds very James Bond, doesn't it?
Klaus Schwab, headquartered in Davos. It just sounds like an evil villain's lair.
I'm pretty sure to get into the World Economic Forum's den, you've got to be lowered by some kind of mechanism underground.
I'm reasonably sure you have to pass through the great black gates first. And the mouth of Sauron, the mouth of Schwab comes out to greet you. Right. But anyway, so the European Management Forum, as it was known at the time, was the first non-governmental institution to initiate a partnership with China's Economic Development Commissions, spurring economic reform policies in China. Yeah, and how well that's gone. I mean, brilliant. Yeah, China's economically reformed. So they're getting really rich, but they're still controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. So it's like we've empowered a giant evil empire. Brilliant. Thanks, Klaus. But anyway, they changed their name to the World Economic Forum in 1987 and started bringing people in. So you got the Davos Declaration that was signed in 1988 by Greece and Turkey, which saw them turn back from the brink of war. In 1989, North and South Korea held their first ministerial level meeting in Davos. The same meeting, East German Prime Minister Hans Modrow and German Chancellor Helmut Kohl met to discuss German reunification. In 1992, Mandela met some other guy there, blah, blah. You can see how it's becoming a nexus for world leaders. And of course, it's a major network, a nexus for world leaders. Now, dozens and dozens and dozens of them go there to discuss world leadery things because this is the project for global governance.
They really are trying to overemphasize their influence, though, because I don't think that they had a hand in preventing Greece and Turkey from being at each other's throats. I mean, it's not like relationships between the two countries have got better.
Maybe in the 80s they didn't, but now they think they certainly do. And I think we can show that. But anyway, before we get into that, let's talk about their ideology. It's woke. They're just a woke project. I mean, here's their Global Gender Gap Report for 2021. Another generation of women will have to wait for gender parity, according to the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap.
This is great, isn't it? All of this weird capital from companies we've never heard of funding.
It's the most feminist perspective on the global gender report and the global gender gap, right? Because a normal perspective, a person who is not deeply ideologically involved in the presupposition of the absolute material equality of the sexes, would just say, yeah, and it's never going to happen, because for it to happen, women will have to work as many hours as men. Women do not work as many hours as men. Not as many women as men work. Therefore, there will never, ever be global gender parity. And that's fine. You know, that's the consequence of free choice. But instead, they've presupposed that there indeed should. And of course, if you go through the report, they say, well, Europe's actually doing the best. And so, yeah, how's Europe doing in those birth rates? Oh, right, it's the lowest instantly. And then it's America. How's America doing? It's second lowest. And so you can see how women's participation in the workforce is affecting worldwide birth rates. And of course, Africa being like a 60% gender pay gap or something, has the least sort of parity there and the least participation in the workforce. Okay, well, there we go.
I think they're actually using this as a kind of smokescreen to push other agendas, because of course if they push this, it means that they're going for this equity, which means that to achieve it you will need communism or socialism. Yeah. So it's a means to an end. I don't actually think that they believe that this is something that's possible. It's just a good front to push an agenda. I
don't see why we would think that they don't believe the things they say. Like, that's the thing. I mean, they're completely open about these things. They basically say that they want a world, a central institution that governs the entire world. They want gender parity. And of course, they think that racial injustice in the workplace is just rife everywhere. If you can go to the next one, John, you can see how they've got, this is just an article, this latest article, in fact, went up like the other day, how we are fighting systemic racism in the workplace. Oh, we're presupposing systemic racism, are we? I don't agree with that. That's the critical race theorist framework that they've adopted, and they don't seem to care.
They don't give any evidence as to why they might believe it. They just present it as a given. Yeah, this is a problem, we are going to solve it.
It's all a given. The gender pay gap is a problem. It's a given. This race report is a problem. It's a given. And so they say, you know, one of the initiative's starting points will be black inclusion and addressing anti-blackness. Define it. I want to hear what they think and what they mean when they say that. A broad brush approach to racism fails to grasp its effects on different underrepresented groups. So this is just critical race theory. Blah, 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 blah. Anti-black racism is historically one of the most pervasive forms of racism. As such, a targeted and specific approach to tackle it in the workplace is required. As the initiative evolves, it will seek to increase the visibility of racially and ethnically diverse leaders throughout industries and expand its focus to include additional racial and ethnic groups. For the World Economic Forum, that's a really Western-centric position to adopt. Because you think in Asia or in Africa, they're like, God, if only we had some diverse leaders.
There just aren't enough black people in African businesses. What's going on?
There's not enough Indians in Indian businesses. Not enough Asians in Asian businesses. But there are definitely not enough non-Europeans in European businesses. And that's what they're saying there. And so it's a very parochial perspective for the World Economic Forum.
I imagine that their scope isn't actually the world. I imagine there are parts of the world that they're not really too...
interesting.
Focused on, yeah. mainly Europe and America that they want to control, which is
Yes,
where
probably.
I think a lot of their influence is used.
Yes, doubtless. But this, and in fact, this is quite evident when you go to their young global leaders. But if you can scroll down, so you can just you can see the people on that little clip show they've got going on. You saw Jacinda Ardern and various others. But if you scroll down, keep going, because they've got a list at the bottom. Keep going, keep going. There you go. You meet the members, and so it is lots of people from around the world, and it's just wherever the money is, basically. But if you can keep going down, you just scroll down, you can see the sort of people. So it is people from all over the world. It is a genuinely global thing. But look at them, right? They all look kind of the same. Scroll up. What are they wearing? They're all like clean business suits, middle class, university educated. They're all basically the same sorts of people. So they've found like the bourgeoisie, the upper bourgeoisie from each country, and they're recruiting them into this global cause. They're the universal men, is what they are. They're the ones who are not like tied to any one particular place.
It certainly looks like they're all just stock photo people.
Absolutely.
And I would imagine that it's just the elites in each society trying to solidify their position using the influence of the World Economic Forum.
Yes, and they have had thousands and thousands of members of this, alumni of this, and lots of people here you don't recognize yet, but lots of people who were on here you will definitely recognize, such as Emmanuel Macron.
Yes, I definitely recognize him.
President of France. That's amazing, right? Who else? Boris?
No surprises there.
How is this possible? Jacinda Ardern?
Yep.
Trudeau?
Explains why they all
of
more
the
or less
worst people
have the same set of policies, doesn't it?
Exactly. And this was what the Build Back Better thing was about. And you can see Biden's Build Back Better bill. He even references the World Economic Forum as an authority in this. And it's
not concerning at all that they're just affecting world policy of elected leaders. It's
not just they're affecting world policy. Exactly. They have managed to essentially conscript all of our countries by taking our leadership. So they've groomed a bunch of people through their programs, doubtless used their money and influence and connections to get these people to the front of the political parties. And one thing that you notice, watch Jacinda Ardern and Justin Trudeau, right? Watch videos of them talking. They seem very, very similar. They seem to have been groomed in the same way for this position to play the role of a modern Western politician who will just say the empty platitudes and craft the sort of narrative that makes them seem legitimate without them really saying anything, right? And this definitely is something that you can notice about the people who have been involved in this. And this is it's just one of those things where it's like, right, so this super governmental organization that is got huge amounts of manpower and finances worldwide has taken over our democracies, and who's in charge of that? And so the emperor of the world at the moment, according to the World Economic Forum, is Klaus Schwab himself, which is the Sauron figure I showed at the front. So we can just look at his bio, and it's actually remarkable. If you can just scroll down a bit, so you can see his handsome face. Professor Klaus Schwab was born in Ravensburg, Germany in 1938. Sounds like a villain.
Ravensburg?
Yeah. I mean, that is the backstory of a villain, right? I was born in Nazi Germany, Ravensburg, and I have plans of world domination. I am Professor Klaus Schwab, and you shall eat the bugs. I'm not joking.
I'm laughing, but it's kind of scary.
True, though, right? And this is the guy, the Great Reset, you will own nothing and you will be happy. It's like, I don't really want you to take all my stuff, if you don't mind, Professor Schwab. But anyway, so he's the guy who founded the World Economic Forum in 1971. He's written several books, and he's got various other foundations I'm just going to skip over because it's as depressing as you might imagine, but you can just go look up his bio on the World Economic Forum. They themselves employ over 700 people, and they've got headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland, and additional offices in New York, San Francisco, Beijing, and Tokyo. He holds a bunch of honorary doctorates, 17 of them, national
17.
medals of honor, Grand Cordon of the Order of the Rising Sun in Japan, the Grand Cross with the Star of the National Order of Germany, and the Knight of the Legion of Honor of France. He was also knighted by Elizabeth II.
Great.
I know.
So he's got honours from most of the major countries in Europe.
Yes. And Japan.
Medal from Japan as well.
Yeah. And of course, he's written a bunch of books, which are the source of all the conspiracy theories, because he's literally like, here's the Great Reset. Here's the Great Reset in COVID-19. Here's the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Here's the Great Narrative, which is the most recent one. The Great Narrative, I haven't read it yet, but I've seen him talking about it. And basically what he's saying is, ooh, people don't like this Great Reset because it seems like we're about to steal all their stuff and take over the world. And they're kind of unhappy with that. So we need a narrative that they can buy into and that can persuade them that this is the right thing to do. And it's like, no.
That's climate change, isn't it?
It's
the onus,
and it's woke ideology as well woven into this. It's the kind of intersection of all of these talking points.
I remember covering an article which was, I think it was on Forbes or something like that, that was sponsored by the World Economic Forum, and they were talking about their utopia, which sounded very much like a dystopia, where it's like you go out for the day and you rent your living room out so people can have business meetings in it. And
as if I want that.
Yeah, so you won't even have your own private space, and if you want to cook anything, you'll have a whisk delivered to you in the door, and then it will be taken away again once you're done using it, as if you
learn nothing
somehow
and you'll be
practical.
Happy.
Yeah,
but as if that's somehow desirable. Like people don't get attached to things and places. You know, the reason I like my living room is because it's mine, and I don't have strangers in there.
It's weird and creepy and invasive, isn't it?
It's disgraceful, but yeah, absolutely. And so, as you can see, this has been a long-term plan for Klaus Schwab, is to essentially take over the planet, and he seems to have done a really good job of it, I hate to say. You know, Sauron's machinations are coming to fruition about now. And you can see this in Justin Trudeau not giving an inch. And why is Justin Trudeau so dogmatically committed to what he's doing? Well, I would suggest it's probably the influence of Klaus Schwab. Let's play this clip.
Prime Minister, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, friends. As you know, the theme of this annual meeting is Mastering the Fourth Industrial Revolution. I couldn't imagine anybody who could represent more the world which will come out of this fourth industrial revolution. It certainly will be a world, hopefully, not certainly, hopefully, if we take the right decisions, which will be a diverse world characterized by plurality. It will be a world which will combine significant investments into the future, into our soft and hard infrastructure, with fostering entrepreneurial activity, at the same time social responsibility. It will be a young world. It will be a digital world. Now, who could represent such a world better than you, Prime Minister? We are very glad that at the beginning of this meeting, you are talking to us to represent also a new, open Canada. I want to use this opportunity also to thank our Canadian constituency, which always has been a very loyal and very much engaged constituency here at the Forum. But now, I think with you, together with our constituents, Prime Minister, we can make sure that in the future we strengthen the cooperation even more with your country.
Listen to that language.
I know he's talking about Trudeau like he's a good little boy.
Yep. Like he owns him.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But I find it interesting. Who's better represented by this young world than at the time 46-year-old Justin Trudeau? I mean, I don't know, maybe someone in their 30s. Who knows? But listen to the language. The constituency, our constituencies. He's talking about Canada as a constituency of the World Economic Forum.
A nation or a country, which is normal language for everyone else. You would have thought.
And of course, there's none more loyal than Justin Trudeau. And he represents the future. He is what the world economic future is going to. He's a perfect representative of it. And so, okay, that aged badly, didn't it? You know, look at what's happening with the truckers now. Trudeau has turned into a full-on tyrant. And it's just like, okay, so you're going to start freezing bank accounts, threatening the truckers, persecuting people who are doing lawful protests by just deeming it unlawful. And that's it. This is the perfect representative of the World Economic Forum. And this, if you think, well, I mean, it's not like Klaus Schwab, groomed him, put him in this position by, backing him financing him, and then is now essentially calling him his constituents of Canada. And it's like, yeah, he actually is. And Klaus Schwab just admits that this is what he's doing. Let's play this clip.
Like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina, and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
And that's true in Argentina too. Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's true in Argentina as well.
It's true in Argentina, and it's true in France now. I'm with the president, who is a young global leader, but
Literally bragging about
what is
controlling
important
these countries.
Yeah. He literally says Trudeau, he gives Trudeau as the example of how they penetrated Canada with their young global leaders and essentially took over their governments. And now Trudeau has turned into a raging tyrant. And the same with Macron. Macron's a tyrant. And like all of these people, and the same with Argentina apparently, and obviously other places. It's like, wow. So this is genuinely like, you know, evil Bond villain, Ravensburg-born German has taken over the world through subterfuge.
I mean, it's what's this? The Germans' fifth attempt now?
Yes.
They should really give it a rest. They're not very good at it. That's the only
Well, I mean,
reconciliation we can.
he's got a lot further than we've got.
That's true.
You know, we don't have any of our people in world governments. But the point is, this is a real thing, and he'll just come out and say it. The World Economic Forum is a plan to literally take over our countries.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Contemplation series that Josh does, and as you can see here, this is on good leadership and what makes a good leader. But if you want to find out what else Josh is bringing out, you can always follow him on Getter at @JoshFirm. Thank you and goodbye.